Hi guys, good morning. You guys are very active and you're awake this time. I remember in college days I used to be asleep most of the time. We had a guest lecturer. So clearly, your dean here has done a great job in calling very interesting speakers who've always caught your attention. So I hope I live up to the expectation, right? So how are we today? Guys, second day of orientation. You guys are pulling it through, huh? So, the team here has done a great job in introducing me. I'm Aastha Almast. I'm the co-founder of the new shop. I've actually was super confused while I was growing up. So I decided to self-educate myself in various fields. I've done finance to fashion to economics, and one thing that stuck through me through all of this is that I didn't want a regular life. So it was adventure, and I was never afraid of anything. So I was neither afraid of success nor I was afraid for failure, and I just took life as it comes. So the new shop is my third startup. I failed twice, and I'd say I'm proudly failed twice. The new shop today is a 2-year-old company with close to 80 stores pan-India and growing super fast. We're targeting 800 stores in the next 18 months. So what looks like an overnight success to most people is actually 8 to 9 years of repeated failures, a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, and a lot of rejections. So entrepreneurship, if this one thing that teaches you, is take a rejection with a smile. So it's the start of your orientation, and I thought, why don't I share with you guys, since you guys are embarking on a new journey, some cool tips that some important skill sets that I wish I'd learned while I was in school, and definitely skill sets that today make me successful. So I thought that would be something valuable for you guys. So I'll just take the next 10 minutes talking about all the cool skills that are important for success and I wish I had learned earlier. So I think the number one skill that you guys are such a huge team of students studying together. The one important skill that I would highly recommend you guys start developing today, it's a 3-year program. You're just starting your journey. You are straight out of school, right? Yeah, straight out of school. Is the importance of teamwork, right? So, alone, we can only do little, but together as a team, we can achieve a lot. And it's pretty sad that our Indian education system teaches us to be highly competitive, in fact, very competitive even with our friends. In fact, I went to a school called Delhi Public School, R.K. Puram, and our teachers there would insist us fight with your best friend. How dare she get 1 mark extra? And now when I'm almost nearing my 40s, the one thing that mattered was, that person was my friend, and we got to exchange important life experiences together. And together today we are supporting each other to be the best versions of ourselves. So teamwork, guys, is the one most important skill that... Do you guys even think teamwork is a skill? Anyone who thinks differently? I mean, it's obvious, right? So simple, teamwork. How difficult can that be? But it is actually a very, very difficult skill. When you're in a team and a group of people and you're thinking about everyone else and their needs more than your own, and you collectively work together to achieve a common goal. When you were coming for MBA entrance exams, they subject you to a group discussion, right? There's a reason for that. And they're trying to see if you're actually a person who can take the team together. If you can do valuable additions into the thinking process, then sort of just start an argument. So a teamwork is actually a very, very difficult skill. And there are actually 7 elements that make you a great team worker. And guys, even great leaders cannot become leaders unless you have a team to listen to you. So even if you think you're a born leader, nothing is possible without a team. So, there's 7 key elements that would make you a great team worker, and, you're just starting your professional journey with your first professional education. Work towards it from day one. So, the number one element would be communication. Number two would be commitment, respect, accountability, delegation, support, and planning. So these are some really key elements that I think are very important to build a great team worker. And I'll tell you what is the importance. Like, communication seems like such a simple thing to do. But a great communicator is a person who's a great listener. So communication is more about listening than actually about talking. So if you're in a team, observe yourself. Are you getting that natural inclination to start talking? Are you actually listening because you want to speak, or are you listening to understand? That great communicator is a person who knows how to listen, right? And only then can you facilitate open discussions. So commitment and accountability is the best expressed in time management. If your friend told you, will you reach a particular place on time? Do you really reach on time? Do you live up to your commitment? Are you accountable, and are you held responsible for meeting your deadlines? So these small things are reflected with just our interpersonal relationships, and then you grow towards them. Delegation and support is super important, and this can really be enhanced through a problem-solving mindset. So we all have problems. A problem could be it's raining, I can't find a cab. To it's raining and I don't think I'll be able to reach a place on time. Those are some really large challenges. So how do you delegate stuff? Now I, for example, have to reach a particular place. I know I may be slightly delayed. What do I do to best utilize and ensure that I'm able to solve the problem? I delegate work. If I'm not able to reach there, I tell somebody, can you actually reach 10-15 minutes in advance, warm up the situation, and I'll be there. I have a certain task that I'm not able to do. Can you support me? It's okay to ask for help. That's another very big thing that, our ego does not allow us to reach out to help for others. So as much as you can ask for help is as much as you can offer that help. So guys, seek help, support each other. And respect and plans are something that is a skill that can be developed through great collaboration. So do more collaborative exercises, right? Even if it is sport, even if it is a painting class, it will involve some level of collaboration. Even if it's, does the college do any group projects? Exactly. So see, the college is anyway grooming you all for how to really be a successful team worker. So finally, guys, success is achieved when everyone involved wants you to have it. You want the entire team to want you to be successful, and I personally do that with a lot of compassion. I think that is my X factor. So you guys find your own X factor, and graduation is the best time to do that. I think the second most important skill that again is very grossly undermined in our society is the power of networking. You're only as powerful, or your net worth is actually your network. It's a very popular saying out there, and as cliched as it may sound, it's absolutely true. You are known by the top 5 people in your life. So networking is really important. You can't be fighting with your friend or fighting, for like 1 mark extra. That's not what real life is about. The real life is about a group of people together trying to achieve a common goal. And to get to that group of people, you have to actively be out there and keep meeting new people, right? I think the 2 books that have helped me understand how networking works is there's a book by Dale Carnegie called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there's another very beautiful book by Adam Grant called Give and Take. This is like a more modern take on networking and meeting people and associating with people. I have a simple formula. When you meet people, always smile, always greet, and always compliment. That's like the best way to break an ice. And active listening. If I'm actively listening to somebody, they feel like I'm involved. So those are some skills that have really helped. And I'll give an example of how I approach networking. If say there's an event that's coming up, I'm invited to that event. What I'll do is I'll see who are the other keynote speakers of that event. and maybe I'll send them out emails, or I'll reach them out on LinkedIn that, hey, we happen to be at the same event tomorrow. Why don't we just catch up and exchange ideas? And most likely 90% of them will respond, and hey, you got a new meeting and you got a new friend. I ensure that I meet at least 2 new people a day. So you don't know, how and where you can add impact in each other's lives. That person could be my future investor, my future customer, my future employee. Just make it a point to keep meeting people every day. There's nothing more important. Friends are not going to distract you. Making networks is not going to distract you from your education and studies. They both need equal importance. The third skill that I think is sales. End of the day, whether you're looking for a job, you're starting a business, in fact, even when you're getting married, what you're really doing is selling yourself. So selling is such a negatively understood word, but selling, I think, is the most important skill to have. You're constantly selling yourself. Right now, talking to you, in a way, I'm selling myself, right? So develop that skill. And I've learned that skill from one of my mentors. Are you guys aware of Shark Tank? So my company, The New Shop, is the first Shark Tank USA funded company in India. So we raise money from Mr. Kevin Harrington, who's in fact the founder of Shark Tank. And yes, now India, maybe Shark Tank aa gaya, it's become very popular. So Kevin Harrington is my mentor, and he's taught me how to do business and how to approach sales. And it was his mentor who was Zig Ziglar. So if you ever guys want to understand how the art of selling works, Zig Ziglar is your go-to guy. So I see selling as equal to helping, right? So when you're trying to approach someone, just ask the right questions. And in that conversation of asking the right questions, you will find ways to solve the problem for whoever your prospective is, and you'll solve their problem. So help them and you'll make a sale, right? And I think the fourth important skill, which I've personally been seeing, the new generation coming up not practicing at all, is exercise and meditation. So while you exercise your body, meditation is the exercise of your mind. So, very recently in my team, we conducted a self-defense training class for women. And I think between me and Madhvi, we were the only people who were able to perform all kind of exercises and kicks. I'm almost end of 30s and Madhvi is like 50s. And it was very sad to see that none of the teenagers and 20-year-olds who are employees of a company could even do maybe 100 jumping jacks. Who are you working for and what are you trying to achieve if you don't have a healthy body and a healthy mind? You're not going to go too far. And we've of late very recently lost a lot of leaders and dignitaries of our country. And it's pretty sad that health wasn't given priority. So guys, I think that's it from me. Give yourself, you're the most important person in your life. So build yourself up and have a good day, and wish you good luck for such a good start to your life.
First of all, I think on behalf of the students, let me thank you for this wonderful talk, because it was not only very practical in the sense that how starting to work as a team is the first most important step to move forward. And being management students, I think that task is of utmost importance for them. We have certain questions on behalf of the students that we would like to know about your journey, if you permit. Can we start with that?
Of course, would love to.
Thank you. Great. So, talking about the concept of new shop, and we all know about 24/7 and retail stores. How did you think of getting a new brand into the line? And what was the strategy of dealing with the competitors standing in the market?
So this is the most frequently asked question. Your biggest idea is the biggest problem that you've been facing and you want to solve it. So, me and my co-founders have lived across multiple countries, and especially the likes of USA. And there we never had to worry, I've run out of stock. Oh no, I have to now wait for the next day. And it's especially more challenging when you're an entrepreneur. You have the most ad hoc working hours. and you need things instantly. Something as small as a pen drive to a quick snack. So this is actually about 10 years ago when we were working on our last startup. I used to live in Mumbai, and me and my co-founders Jarak and Mani used to travel in a local train from Andheri. I don't know if you guys know about Bombay geography, but the transport there is a real problem, right? The distances are long, and the fastest way to get to anywhere is not necessarily driving a car or a cab, but taking the local train. So we used to live in Lokhandwala, and we used to take a local train from Andheri railway station. Our office was in Bombay Stock Exchange building in near Church Gate. So this is what our journey looked like every day. We would walk from our house to the railway station, or maybe take a auto. It would take us 15 minutes to get there. From the railway station to Church Gate would be about a 1.5 hour journey. And then from the railway station there to our office was another 30 minutes on foot. So to avoid traffic, what we used to do is choose really odd hours. Like we'd leave for office at like 7 a.m. Or like 12 noon, or come back like at midnight. So it was really a very ad hoc work schedule. And over there, when we used to walk out of the railway station, I used to be thirsty, I used to be hungry, we needed a notebook, we needed groceries to get back home, and we used to wonder why 7-Eleven not in India. We are so used to 7-Eleven in the US. Why the hell? India is the youngest country in the world. It's made of people like us. Why do we not have 7-Eleven in India? And as fate would have it, 7-Eleven decided not to come to India for the longest of time. So 3 years ago, we reached out to Kevin Harrington. There's an interesting fact. There's one convenience store for every 2,000 people in USA, and there's one convenience store for every 3,000 people in China. And we are India, the youngest country, who apparently are following the US and China trends. Also, convenience retail as an industry grows in a country where there's the youngest working population, and we are 70%. So it was a no-brainer idea. We called Kevin, India, we want to build this in India, man. Don't know when or any one of our favorite chains are going to come to India. So in US, there are close to 25 convenience store chains that are all worth $100 billion. So competitive landscape, we didn't really talk or worry about. India is a $1 trillion retail market. I am not looking at conquering that entire $1 trillion market. So we never really thought of what competitors are, what they are building, what 24/7 is doing. We just had a problem. We wanted to solve it. And it, as fate would have it, we started solving the problem during COVID. So our learnings were extraordinary. What we realized was retail is not touching the masses. So there was a very unique problem that we were solving. One is that we wanted to solve for the masses. And two, we wanted to build India's probably second retail chain after DMart that is actually a profitable chain. That was something very core and fundamental that 24/7 has been around in India for close to 15 years. And they've not really expanded outside of Delhi. In fact, even in Delhi, today we are much larger in our presence in Delhi as compared to a 24/7 in the last 2 years. So the problem wasn't about what competitors are doing and can we do it better. The problem was around what is it that we can create in our country that is truly solving a problem. For us, the problem statement was we don't have quick access. We don't have round-the-clock access of anything we need. We wanted to solve that problem, and we wanted to solve the problem for our country, not just an affluent 0.001% class of the country in the super urban areas. And we wanted to do it profitably, and I'm super fortunate that both my co-founders are tech founders. They understood the entire tech backbone, and we wanted to build in 4 years what 7-Eleven built in 40. So that wouldn't have been possible without technology as a backbone, building a very frugal and very scalable business model. So our statement is clear: 10,000 stores, 2028. And that's all we know. We don't know what competitors are doing. We don't really care about what they're doing. This is what we are doing, and we're doing a very good job with it.
Great, thank you. Well, 10,000 stores is a big number that we're targeting at in a very small span of time.
I'll tell you, the government made an estimate. There's an opportunity of 1 million convenience stores in India. So we're just tiny. We're tiny, like tiny speck in the ocean, right?
With this kind of zeal, I think we have a very long way to go. There are two questions cropping up out of this entire story from the perspective of the students. So we are also hosting a challenge for them, which is the Startup Idea Challenge, where from here only the students have been groomed to think upon an idea. Now, one common problem arises there is that from where should we pick this up? So usually students miss this common step of finding out a problem that is existing for which they can give a solution. Like you said, that through your journey as a student and while you were working, you understood that something is lacking, right? So you found out or tapped upon a problem. So to start a successful startup, is it necessary as a first step to identify a problem and then work on a solution? Or to run a successful startup, can we replicate an existing business or try to modify an existing business? What do you think is an important step?
It depends on who you are. I think the primary thing is you have to identify what is the most frustrating thing in your life. Can you solve it? I think that's the answer to what business idea should I be working on. And if you talk to any founder, whether it's because of their professional environment, personal environment, family environment, there's been a big problem that's been in their life and they wanted to solve it. So I'll give some examples of entrepreneurs that I understand and know. So if you know the founders of Udaan, do you guys know about a startup called Udaan? So all the three founders were earlier working in Flipkart. And while working in Flipkart, they realized supply chain was a problem, right? And that is how they identified a problem which they collectively wanted to solve through Udaan. Another example, I'm sure Aman has come here, right, multiple times. Yeah, so Aman speak to Aman. He used to previously work in another, luxury gadgets company. His problem that he identified was that these luxury gadgets, and he was a salesperson, right? Yeah, so he realized that these luxury gadgets cannot be bought by everyone in India. Who are we solving for? Are we solving for the top rich bracket, or I as an entrepreneur I want to create a product that everyone in the world uses. So that's how Boat was born, right? Do you guys know about Sugar Cosmetics? Right? So Vinita's problem statement was that, I use cosmetics, but these cosmetics are not, even the best of brands don't build it for the Indian skin tone. And I like buying cosmetics, so why don't I build cosmetics that suit my skin tone? Because they're not tested for Indian skin tone, so look differently on Indian skin tone. So, everyone has identified an idea based on a problem statement that gravely troubles and bothers them. See, if you pick up somebody else's idea and try to solve for it, you're not going to be able to feel so committed to solving it as much as you identify your problem and you want to solve for it. Not finding great makeup brands targeting Indian women is my problem too. But I don't so passionately feel for it as much as I feel for solving for quick access, right? I've traveled in a railway station, I've traveled in an airport, I've traveled on a highway, I've searched and searched desperately and felt why 7-Eleven not here more strongly than any other idea. But I feel so strongly for this. So that's what I decided to choose for this. There's a second thing that you mentioned, right? Should I pick up an existing business and try to remodel it? So there are a lot of startups that have actually started doing that. I don't know if you guys have heard of Global Bees, Thrasio, right? So what these companies do is that they acquire young brands and they do a makeover, right? And they build like a conglomerate of large brands and scale them together. Now that's also a great business idea. That you acquire these brands, but then that's also a problem, right? You maybe stumbled upon maybe a relative or somebody who had like a brand that was doing 50 crores, 60 crores of revenue, couldn't scale it beyond a point, but you had the capability and expertise to scale it. So you actually then go out of the way to think, I think I can become a restructuring specialist. I could get all these brands together and solve, collectively for those. So it's exactly about who you are, but look deep within. See what really frustrates you and you will find this answer and very passionately be driven to solve it. Then you will not ask questions like, do I have work-life balance? Do I want to go partying with my friends? Then this will become a core purpose, solving your problem.
So I think this clearly comes out that we have to get it out of us. Something that we have felt, we have faced is more individualized, and that will always drive you towards getting the outcomes in that. Great. One more question that came out of this entire journey is trying to solve a problem for the masses. Should a business to become a profitable one in a country like India, in the Indian market per se, is it a good idea to initiate a startup which is solving the problem of the masses, or we can even do segment work? We can work with a niche segment, and that kind of a business can also work.
I've worked in niche segments. See, you either earn by volume or you earn by extreme loyalty from a certain sect of people. Now, it's a difficult task, right? There are a lot of brands who try to target niche and failed miserably, because what happens is that top brass of people who have that, who are defined as a niche segment is very little, and everyone is competing to get their attention. So I personally think that your chance of success in that top segment and bracket is a lot more difficult than if you're creating product for the masses, because nobody is really targeting them. It's a huge market landscape, and if you see companies that have become successful in India and profitable in India, whether it's a lens cart, it's a boat, these are all profitable ventures. They've actually worked on great branding and affordability than just super premium target segment. So I think that's my take.
Great. Your company, the new shop, is conquering the phygital space and convenience retail. So what drives your passion to create a self-sustainable ecosystem for the long run, that we're talking about the coming 8 years or 10 years and then years beyond that? So what 2 or 3 things, or maybe your most important strategies, that you feel is going to retain the brand into the ecosystem?
So I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world. So I'm building a team that is 1,000 times smarter than me, and I will continue to do that without ego. I'm one of the lowest paid employees in my company. I own it, right? Because I'm actually thinking of what the new shop would look like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ahead in time, right? And the number one thing is, who are the people who are going to be driving that 10 years, 5 years, ahead in time? So the number one strategy is hiring and finding the best of people, and it's very important for you guys to know. You guys are trying to become entrepreneurs, but entrepreneur is not a state of doing, it's a state of mindset. So I'm actually, every time I'm hiring, I'm only hiring for entrepreneurs. If I'm looking at hiring somebody in the food and beverages department, he's the entrepreneur of that department. So I'm like, you're the CEO boss. Don't tell me, or don't ask me what to do. You tell me what is to be done. So we're creating a network of entrepreneurs within our company with that entrepreneurial mindset. The second thing is, when everyone has part of the wealth sharing of a big vision and the company that you're creating, everyone will be equally invested in building it with you. So you must have heard of a popular term called ESOPs, right? However, ESOPs is something that does not attract non-tech talent. So I have people who are working in the stores as store managers, even team leaders. How do I ensure them that they're motivated and aligned and part of that wealth building? End of the day, I'm sitting in office in an air condition, speaking to high-end people, not attending to highly demanding customers all day, all night. It's them. So how to think about ways that you can create wealth generation for everyone. So what we then decided was, we've grown through franchising, and we've launched a new program, popular term of ESOPs. We call it employee franchise options, so EFOPs. What we started doing is, all our top performing store managers, all our top performing team leaders, there's a vertical growth. See, as a store manager, at most you can become a store manager if you leave the new shop of another bigger brand. But end of the day, your growth and your journey and your salary is restricted to a particular level. A store manager can never earn in lakhs and crores, right? Or doesn't even have the potential. So what is it that I can do to empower that level of wealth creation for that person? And we've launched this franchise option program where all our top performing employees are interviewed for their entrepreneurship abilities and lateral thinking. And the company awards them franchisees, or from an entrepreneur to a store owner, so from an employee to an entrepreneur or a store owner. So that is something that has gotten us really, I mean, our attrition rate has kind of become almost zero. People are super excited because at the HO level, if they are part of the wealth creation through ESOPs, at the store level, they're part of the wealth creation through employee franchise options. So that's the strategy number 2 that we do. And third, we're constantly learning. Right. I was in fact having a conversation in the beginning that when you're thinking of building a business, please don't think what is relevant today. You have to keep thinking what is going to be relevant 5 years, 10 years. Like if today sitting here, I cannot imagine how blockchain will be adopted to the new shop, or how would metaverse be adopted to the new shop. I'm making a big mistake. Then I've not thought it through. I'm not creating a business. I'm just sort of having fun. So you're always going to have to keep learning, and you have to self-teach yourself. And there is no right and wrong answer. You'll discover it because you're building a business or in an industry that does not exist before. There's been no convenience retail chain in India before. What do I do? What do I look up to for advice? 7-Eleven did it 40, 50 years ago when the times were very different. So you have to keep learning, keep self-educating, and that's the only successful strategy that can keep you alive.
The best takeaway from here is that how laterally employees can actually become entrepreneur, and that's good for the brand, that's good for the ecosystem altogether, for the sustainable development of the company as well as the individuals working there. Great learning from here. Future entrepreneurs can imitate that as well. Understanding it from their perspective, do you think age and the capital investment should be the barriers behind entrepreneurship? Because there's a very common thought that because I don't have funding or have to work for a certain number of years and collect the funds for myself and then get into entrepreneurship, because there's a huge sum involved to start a company. Are these myths or are they true?
We all know how Apple, Google and all were started. So if you found a real problem that is true to you, you will have the expertise and the skill set to solve it. So between me and my co-founders, we've done everything. I've been a salesperson. I've cleaned the store floor. So having very large capital to start to test your idea is a myth. We started the new shop with just 10 lakhs of loan from Mudra loan, if you've heard of it. From Indian Overseas Bank, just 10 lakhs of loan, and today we're over 100 crores of annualized revenue. So it's a myth that you need a lot of. In fact, with social media, with internet, the cost of setting up a business is actually getting lower and lower and lower. You actually have WhatsApp, you have very cheap data. The reason why my first 2 businesses failed because the phones were not so cheap and the data was super expensive. So it was very difficult to create app-based companies early on in 2013 up to 2017 till Jio was launched. So the cost of setting a business is actually getting lower and lower and lower. If you have a great idea and you want to solve for it, there are multiple ways of solving for it. However, when you really want to think big and make it really big, obviously you will require capital. And in my experience, what happens is that there'll be 2 kind of founders. One will have relevant work experience, and the other kind of founders will not have relevant work experience, maybe straight out of school, college. The ability to raise capital is a lot easier if you are an experienced founder. So that is something that I've observed. Udan guys at an idea level got like multiple $1 million of funding. If tomorrow you go and try to raise that kind of funding, we won't get it, right? Because those guys had a track record. The word is track record. So if there's an investor you're trying to meet, they try to check for 2 things, your track record and your reference. So if you've not really worked at all in any kind of a high growth company, then there's neither any track record or reference. So if that's a path that you want to take, I would highly suggest apply or work in a high growth startup, and not like a Series D onwards company, like a C to a C up to a Series B level company. I'm hoping you all know what I'm saying.
Not really, because now this is their start. Students are coming from science and humanities background as well.
Cool. So this is levels of funding or levels of growth. So by seed to Series B, what I mean is the amount of funding they've raised or the amount of growth that they've achieved. A lot of companies don't end up raising any capital and then they suddenly raise. I remember there's an edtech company that just raised $100 million at a $1 billion valuation. They've never raised money in the past. So imagine if somebody is giving you $100 million as a first check, what amazing company you would have built, bootstrapped, at no funding at all. So if entrepreneurship is a path that you want to take, join an early stage startup. You'll have to do everything there. I mean it, right? From cleaning the door, cleaning the floor, to welcoming guests, to even making tea and coffee, to extremely high level discussion like you don't even know. People who have just gone with us to meet ministers. Because I was running short of time, so I sent one of our senior store managers, please go meet this commissioner and get this thing done, man. So you'll get a lot of variety of experience and across various stages, and you would have learned that much experience that would make you know whether startup or ecosystem is good for me or it's not good for me. So if that is the path you take, just join a startup, work for 2 years, 3 years, high growth. Why I'm saying high growth is that's when you would have learned the most. The processes would not have been set. There'll be a lot of chaos, indiscipline in the company. That's where most amount of learning will come. And also when investors look at investing in startups, entrepreneurs, they want to see if you worked in a startup before, what are the years in which you worked. So if this is the time when the company scaled from 10 million to $100 million revenue, then you've definitely learned a lot. So that's how the word is called entrepreneurs who've been entrepreneurs before. So that's something you could start with.
So those of you who have an inclination towards starting your own business and still have doubts can probably gain a work experience in a startup first to see if there's an organization and person fit for you. I'll take 1 or 2 questions on your behalf, and then in case we have questions from the audience, we can invite that. Women and entrepreneurship, how do you see this combination happening? Because we understand, we call upon this platform some very, very successful entrepreneurs like yours, where age hasn't been a barrier, or, women are taking up those roles. But there are still sections in the society who believe that there are additional responsibilities attached. So is entrepreneurship a viable option for the women who are still fearing, or their families who are still fearing to send them and take those, they don't have the risk-attaining attitudes maybe attached to it? How do you see this combination?
Great question. And I would like to answer this on behalf of not just women entrepreneurs, but any woman who decides to work. So, by the way, it's not been an easy journey for me. There have been a lot of hurdles, a lot of biases. They still exist today. Not just in India, everywhere in the world. I remember when I was starting up, I read one of Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In. And there I read, in most of the board meetings, she used to find herself as the only woman, and men did not know where the restrooms for women were. You won't believe, 3 years ago, I was there at a PR agency's office, which is, by the way, Facebook's PR agency as well. And I found myself as the only woman, and none of the men there knew where the women's washroom was. And, 7 years later, after Sheryl Sandberg's been talking about all of this, it still exists, right? So there are biases, there will be biases, but there's one solution to it. That you get up and you do something that would challenge the biases. So my life is not as complicated as the rest of the people, because I come from a family of 3rd generation of working women. Most of the battles that I'm fighting today were fought by my dadi. So my dadi was one of the first gynecologists of India, and she was an entrepreneur. She built one of the first hospitals in India as well. She was like, very conservative Baniya family, very difficult life. In fact, she got married at the age of 36 to my granddad, who was from a different caste and 5 years younger than her. But she broke so many barriers and glass ceilings that everything is so much easier for her granddaughters. And the best way to overcome these biases for all the ladies sitting here today is get up and do something, so you make your next generation less susceptible to those biases. And the men out there, please support your women so that your daughters, your granddaughters don't have to go through a world that our current women or our previous generation women are going through. So there will be biases. You just have to fight it through. And in fact, if you ask me, I think entrepreneurship is actually a wonderful thing for a woman. I have full control over my timings. I have full control over, if when I have children, I want to build a creche in my office, I don't have to take permission. I'll just build it, right? And because there's a woman in the founding team of my company is run a lot more compassionately than many other companies. There's a different angle of leadership that women bring in, and the world will only become an equal place where there are men and women both taking leadership roles, because men haven't solved all women problems by being in leadership roles, right? We have to solve some of our problems as well.
I think of that compassion, that emotional quotient that raises up, and rather than defining it between men and women, I think you said that world would be a better place with both the genders, both the sexes working together towards a particular target to achieve. Great. So with this, I also want to know, and was very curious to know, that what is the idea behind this name, The New Shop? It's neither a very, we would say, out of the box name, but it is something very catchy people can relate to. So what was your story behind
Just
naming it this way?
Simple. We were building a new concept in retail, and we wanted to call it The New Shop because it doesn't really mean anything. It could be a new concept in retail. We sell a lot of new age D2C brands in our stores. It could be that. It could be a new way of running retail operations. It also means new tech. We just wanted, whenever people think of the word new, they associate it with us, because we all think, new always means an upgraded version of something. So when you're naming your businesses, the simpler you keep it, the better, especially with consumer facing companies. Facebook is a simple name. Google is a simple name. The simpler name, like there's actually whole science of syllables and things. The simpler that a B2C, a consumer-facing business is named, the higher is the chance of recall.
That's a great message. Anybody having questions in the audience can raise their hands and we can get the mic to you. Okay.
Hello. First of all, good morning, ma'am.
What's your name?
Ma'am, Sadiq.
Hi, Sadiq.
Thank you, ma'am. So, my question to you is basically, we understand that you have worked as well with in sales and many aspects of finance, and now you're an entrepreneur. Can you now imagine yourself in a 9-to-5 job, and what are the differences according to you between an entrepreneur and a 9-to-5 employee?
I think the word 9-to-5 job is a myth now. Even the best companies I know don't do a 9-to-5 job anymore. One of my investors heads Mahindra Mutual Fund, and he found most of the transactions that happen in this fund happen actually at night, which means people like us who are awake at night are transacting in their fund. So they actually change the timings. So it's actually flexi time. Most of the best working places are flexi time. And if you mean is that can I work for someone else now? Is that what you were trying to imply? I don't know, because I see myself building the new shop for a very, very, very long time. So I have not achieved that yet to think of any other thing. So I'm just super focused about that.
Maybe the question lies, how far, ma'am, can you go away from your passion? Probably that is difficult. But I think from his perspective, what he wants to know is that after tasting a startup, is it easy to get back to a regular corporate job?
90% of startups fail. What do these entrepreneurs end up doing? So we have a lot of entrepreneurs. I won't call them failed entrepreneurs because I think they're way more experienced than successful entrepreneurs who are running departments in our company. I told you I hire entrepreneurs, right? So the person who's heading our F&B business, the person who's heading our sales, corporate training business vertical, they're all entrepreneurs who built businesses in the past, and they are building, just like they were building it there, they're building it here. So there are a lot of companies that appreciate and adore entrepreneurship. So you'll find a good fit. It's okay if you failed in a company and you want to quit your startup. There are enough opportunities entrepreneurial opportunities out there. So if that is what you want to do, you will find enough stuff.
One in your company.
Yeah, of course. But you said after building a startup, right?
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. My name
Hi,
is
good
Gurvanch.
Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Gurvanch.
Gurvanch, hi.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is that what could be the reasons that startups still they are pre-revenue or not earning much, still they manage to get such overwhelming valuations? What could be the reason, ma'am?
So one I mentioned, find out who the founders are.
Okay.
If those founders have built, Adam Newman, the one who built WeWork, he's built WeWork, right? So if he starts his new company, the valuation he gets is not only on the potential of the current business that he's building, but also who it's building, right? You must have all understood, gratuity or business has something called goodwill. If you've studied accounts, that goodwill is a very big factor in determining valuation. So there are multiple things that go into it. It's actually honestly fundraising is not a science; it's an art.
So valuation doesn't only includes the tangible part. It also includes the intangible things as well.
I mean,
the customer loyalty, the goodwill the company has.
Absolutely. It's a multiple of those factors. Because a lot of companies are loss making. How will you achieve? See, the fundamental question people would ask you, if today you were to shut your company, what's going to happen? Right? Our customer is going to really miss you. That's like a solid question. And multiple factors, right? I think number one is founder background. So if you are an Adam Newman and you want to come up with a new idea, you will obviously get crazy valuation because everybody would want to partner with you. Business is actually no science. It's about you're Adam Newman. I want to work with you, man. I want to get to know you. I want to be associated with you. What valuation do you want? I'll give you. It's actually like that.
One more question.
Sure.
Ma'am, is that tag of IIT, IM really matters if you want to raise funds from a VC or PE firm? Because I have seen many people raising funds, especially companies in the edtech field who are either IITians or IIMs. They make it big. So what could be the reason, ma'am? Is that brand really important?
So, I wouldn't just restrict it to IIT, IIMs, but also the Ivy Leagues, which is actually far more popular. For fundraising circles.
I'm talking only about the Indian context.
Even in Indian, I'll explain. Yeah. So what happens is, it's not really the brand name, it's about network. I mentioned, right? So what happens is, there are two parts of this. One, to get into a college like IIT, IIM, there's definitely some level of extreme hard work you've put in, and you bypass the most challenging and competitive examination to find yourself in that institute. So it definitely reflects your grit, perseverance, hard work, and various other factors. So if I were also to hire or look at somebody who comes from an educational experience which is highly competitive vis-a-vis something that's not, I would understand, right? There's a certain level of maturity and hard work that's communicated through what you've studied and where you studied. The second thing I mentioned, right? Network. Most number of successful startups have been built by IIT Delhi people. So they're obviously connected. There's IIT Delhi has one of the best alumni network, and they're super connected. So most of the folks involved in IIT Delhi and the renowned entrepreneurs support that ecosystem and that network. So what happens is, for example, I'm from a particular school. I know how grilling that school is. By the way, that's DPS Arkipuram. I know how grilling that school is. I know that, what all we were subjected to. And I definitely know that it definitely forms people who are hardworking and from a certain network, certain awareness and maturity in life. So there's a certain understanding that I have, right? Likewise, I went to IIM Calcutta. I even went to a college called Pearl Academy of Fashion, which is like absolutely different, right? I understand the DNA of how these colleges work and how these colleges groom their students. So think of it from an investor's perspective. Investors are also in a job. It's not their money. And they're trying to mitigate as much risk in losing that money. So they're more likely to invest in, there's a checklist. Think of it as a checklist. Very educated, correct. Hardworking, correct. How do you find and gauge these skills? And these are the parameters where people have been traditionally gauging, what do you say, success formula. ना Bollywood movies में भी होता है ये success formula, item number डाल दो, ये डाल दो और picture चल जाएगी. But just like Bollywood की भी अब बुरे दिन आ गए हैं with all these success formulas not working. Even VCs have bled so much money investing in just purely IIMs and IIT graduates that now they are asking the real questions. So earlier ideation stage funding was very common. Now nobody wants to fund anyone unless they have a minimum viable product. Matlab there's a product that's working and there's a customer who's buying and you're earning some revenue. And there is some proof that you can scale it to hundreds of such customers. So things have changed. This used to be a case last year, but abhi chal rahi hai funding winter. Yeah. So now the real business questions, I don't know if you follow startup news, but there are certain publications you should be following. There's a recent unicorn that got sold at like dismal valuations called Revigo. Read up about, there's these popular publications like Inc42, TechCrunch, Your Story, N Tracker. Read about these and you'll know market का sentiment बदल रहा है. Share market और इसमें ज़्यादा difference नहीं है.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Hi, good morning, ma'am. This is Love.
I love.
Ma'am, my question is that, you are all we know that in a retail store there is a big red ocean. I'm not
What?
Big red ocean, fully competitive market.
Okay.
I'm not saying about the competitive market and anything else. Before you are starting, before the starting, how is that mindset important? How should be the mindset important so that we have to go in a red ocean and we have to dominate the market? I'm not talking about the competition. I'm not about what should be the mindset.
I think he means that should somebody have a risk appetite before starting a business?
No, I'm talking about the mindset. What should be the mindset to go in a competitive market?
See, when there's if a market size is very large, then your chance of success is also very large, right? Vis-a-vis a market size which is very small, then your chance of success is also very small. That's also another parameter their investors take to evaluate your business potential. Now, I do know that retail market in India is $1 trillion industry, right? It's a huge market. And I do know that the competitive landscape in India is such that the modern retail penetration in India is about 7%. Does anybody have any idea what it would be, what this number would be like in US or China or any developed economy? What do you think, Love?
Sorry, I didn't.
जो इंडिया में मॉडर्न रिटेल है, मॉडर्न ट्रेड है, आप मॉडर्न ट्रेड समझते हो?
Yeah.
Modern trade, right? Like not a kirana dukan, right? Like organized retail, where things are run professionally in an organized manner. It's called modern retail. Modern retail in penetration, matlab the access, right? How many stores per capita is available in India is 7% in India. I think thoda बढ़ के 9 हो गया होगा. Vis-a-vis USA and China or any other developed markets, the modern retail penetration is 97%. So that 90%, even if I increase it through my efforts by a 10%, that 10% of $1 trillion economy is huge. You get it?
Yeah.
So that is the mindset, right? When you're trying to do business and also study the kind of business you're working, you may not find the exact similarity in another market, but you can still find some references. So some country like in Indonesia, very recently this happened. There were a lot of these kirana or what you call mom and pop or corner stores that used to be available everywhere. Then came the revolution where young working population became affluent and they wanted access in a standardized format. All these mom and pop stores then had to either sell off, go out of business, or look for other lucrative businesses. And that's when there are two very large chains called Alpha Mart and Indomart were born. They're all again billion-dollar businesses built in the last 15 years. When you study environmental global factors में क्या चल रहा है, that's one reference point कि ये industry बाकी countries में कैसे emerge हुई. And second कि India में what is really the situation. If the size is so, I mean, India can't be at a 7% modern trade penetration. Yeah. It's impossible. You are saying India is a developing country. We'll have world-class airports, world-class residential areas. You can't really have 93% of kirana stores everywhere. You are the young guys. How many times a day do you visit a kirana store? Do you guys visit a kirana store? Because you had no other option. The same way when I guess Flipkart was planning, there was no e-commerce that existed. But Flipkart thought of it through this. Amazon became very big in USA. Amazon's become very big in, or Alibaba has become very big in China. Even if I don't get that entire $1 trillion retail in India, can I get to like a 1%? And they've actually just reached a 1% and you know how big they are. So that's how you think.
And second question is like, is there any relation between stock brokerage and retail store? Because the people from the stock brokerage are opening the retail store. Like Radhakishan Damani opened the DMart and you from a stock brokerage open the new shop.
Interesting observation. I never thought of it this way.
The reverse thing, I think he's asked. Yeah.
I honestly didn't think this way. By the way, my co-founders, you guys had asked a question, right? How important is education and work experience to build a big business? My co-founders have never worked anywhere. So they knew in their mind, I'm going to start up. But I do think success came in a lot later to them because they started up later. To answer your question, we are a team of 3 people, 3 founders. I am the only one that comes from this kind of a background. Both my co-founders are computer science graduates. So वो tech founders हैं and हम retail की problem solve कर सकते हैं through tech. Actually was their idea. I can't take merit for that.
Thank you.
But good observation.
No, just one thing here, because lot of students have and in fact lot of guests that we have hosted in the past have given these 2 viable plans. Mr. Prashant Pitti spoke about it, Mr. Vikas Bagaria spoke about it, that it's always good to team up. If you are from a management background, have your co-founder who's from the tech. That makes a very good combination. So is that a viable idea to have co-founder in case you do not have any first to start and
I
people
think
from different domains?
Single founder companies have the least chance of success. I cannot re-emphasize on the value of teamwork. You know who you are. Find people in your team, whether founders or anyone else, who actually have skill sets that you don't possess. So always be on a lookout, right? I told you, keep meeting people. You don't know who's your next co-founder.
We can have last 1 or 2 questions from there's a girl here, and one of our faculties would also like to ask a question. So we can first give our student a chance.
Good morning, ma'am. I am Ananya Sani.
Hi, Ananya.
Actually, I wanted to ask how to say no to deals and things that you aren't really interested in. Because no is taken as a negative thing. And does that really impact us as a small business owner?
It's a great question. I tell you, 99% of the people are still learning and struggling with how to say no. But I think saying no is the most important trait that you need to build. And no, बहुत सारी चीज़ होती है. It's not just business deal. Firing an employee is also a no. You're a girl, in fact, you should know how to say no even more, right? It depends on who you are dealing with, and saying no is always a sensitive issue. For that, you need to develop some great communication skills, right? Now, for example, there are a lot of brands who want to sell at the new shop. And I'm having to deal with this a lot every day. There are close to 10 brands that pitch to us on a day-to-day basis. And I honestly feel very sad when I say no to them. So what I've started doing is that no today does not mean a no tomorrow, right? So what you do is, there's this Google form that I filled, that we've created in the team. And every time a brand pitches to us, we tell them that you fill this form. And it goes into our database. And actually, as a tech company, we don't determine which brand to onboard and which brand to not onboard. It's our tech, machine learning that determines which product to keep and which to not keep. Now, it's very difficult. Like, I'm not going to tell this internal business secret to all the brands we are working with, right? That I'm not the one saying the no, but it's the company. So this is something that I do to address is that, it's a great product. When you say a no, start with a 3S, 3 compliments. Great product, great everything.
Become
great
more
founder,
assertive.
Great founder. However, this does not fit my requirement, right? So it's a sensitive, I understand it's very sensitive. And I again like to deal this with compassion. मैं पहले I really respect them. I show gratitude. I show appreciation. And then I say, sorry, this does not work for us right now, but we'll get back to you in the future. So if your question is around vendors, right? As a small business, adopt the strategy, because you don't know if this no today is a no tomorrow. So you never want to burn bridges.
It's probably always a good technique to push in two good ideas and then reject yourself or deject yourself from one, so that the other person also is in a win-win situation probably. Ma'am, we can have your question. Can we have the mic for her, please?
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Nidhi, an assistant professor in business management area. So, ma'am, I'm glad that you covered about the managerial skills, but I want you to explain more about the entrepreneurships, because you said that you actually employ the persons who are entrepreneur in nature. But at the same time, I believe you must be handling the kind of creativity they come with, because they are coming up with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of creative ideas. But in order to run your organization, you must restrict the creative ideas that you have to take in, and you have to, like the question C said about saying the no. And these creative people, sometimes because of their different characters, it will be quite difficult to handle them. So I just want to understand, how do you actually deal with those creativity with your conformity that you want to run the organization for long run?
See, I hire people who are smarter than me. So I got to trust them that what they're thinking is probably the best thinking. There's a final goal that they know that they have to achieve, and there may not always be a right path to get there. So we have to trust our people that they'll be able to do a right job, and they'll make mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes. So we need to trust the people that if they make a mistake, all we can do is empower them that, just put the mistake aside, brush it, learn from it quickly and move on. So that is something that I encourage anyone who's working and they're smarter than me, right? I can't tell the corporate trainer person who's 20 years older to me, built multiple businesses, on how to train people. But I can just tell them that this is the company's larger vision, align them to the vision, and then just trust them to do the right stuff. And people with that kind of a mindset, and obviously the second thing I didn't mention is I only hire good people, and you get to know that. So when an organization is hiring people on the basis of obviously not just talent but also soft skills like loyalty, honesty and various other skills, then you trust them that they'll do their job very well. So I actually never interfere unless, and it's not really happened till now. You trust people, they'll do the job. If they make a mistake, they'll learn from it quickly, and it'll be an open culture where if they make a mistake, they don't fear. They quickly acknowledge it, share it with the team. We really respect failures in our company, and I think creative people really appreciate that you're appreciating not just them but what mistakes they've made, because it's a learning lesson for everyone in the team, so those mistakes are not repeated. So that's what the future is about. Just create no boundaries.
Glad to know that you appreciate the mistakes, because there are very few organizations that really appreciate.
Then they're not building great companies, I tell you.
Maybe because you have a tech founders, because in technology companies, the managers, they really appreciate the mistakes, because that is how they learn how not to do the work.
Just one lesson from your side, ma'am, to wrap up the entire session for those wanting to get into entrepreneurship or want to step into corporate or go for higher education but build their career as future manager or leader. So one small message for all of them, if you could give, though we've had various.
Start
till
now. Start now. The real education is actually on the job. So nothing stops you from taking part-time, freelancing projects while you study in college. We all have the time. Just reduce 1 hour of Netflix every day.
Thank you so much.
Lovely speaking to everyone, and I'm available on LinkedIn if anyone wants to connect. Do feel free to reach out.
All right, that would be great. I think there should be more people knocking doors now. That is where networking would start, as you mentioned. It was a wonderful time having you and hosting you at Asian Education Group, and we definitely look forward to a very, very continued association with you in future as well.